Thanks for watching. This clip was from our live show exclusively on odds.com. To watch the full video, hit the link below and get paid in full. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to our next spot. That's Seahawks Rams. This is another real interesting spot. Total is sitting at opening at 56, now at 55.5. Rams open up at -1. Now there's 1.5, and there's a couple twos on the board. Seahawks are coming off an ugly 44-34 loss at Buffalo. They're still 6-2, 2-2 on the road. Rams are 5-3, 3-0 at home. Russell Wilson finished 28-41 for 390 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 7 turnovers over his past 3 games. DK Metcalf and Bebs, you and I talked about the possibilities of Russell Wilson having a giant receiver as soon as he was drafted. Man, he's better than my wildest dreams. 7 catches, 108 yards, 1 touchdown. Seattle couldn't move the ball on the ground without Carson and Hyde. They remain questionable this week. They had 17 carries for 57 yards. They were led by DJ Dallas' 7 carries for 31 yards. Seattle became the NFL 6th team to score 25 or more points in each of its first 8 games. But nobody's questioning their offense. The defense surrendered 420 yards. That's the 5th time this season the opponent has topped 400 yards. 44 points allowed were the most in Carroll's 11 seasons in Seattle, the most for the franchise since 2009. 48-10 loss at Green Bay. They finished with a season-high 7 sacks. And that's a kind of a confusing stat because every time Carroll was blitzing, and he was blitzing nonstop, they got destroyed. I mean, Carroll was – it was so funny that it happened on the – whatever. I don't know if it was the day but as soon as it was announced they had the extension, because he came in thinking that the Bills were going to run the ball. They threw the ball nonstop, and he wasn't able to make adjustments. And they have 7 sacks and get burnt nonstop. Carroll looked bad. Dunlap, sack in the Seahawks debut. But this is a beat-up squad. Let's just talk about the Seahawks before we get into the Rams, because I don't want to sit here talking for too long, and I've already done that. But let's now beat up these guys, Bebsy. Cornerback DJ Reed, ankle injury in the game. He should be good to go. Cornerback Quentin Dunbar, chronic knee injury. Carroll says he needs regular rest for the rest of the season to overcome it. KJ Wright, we know how important he can be. Hurt his ankle against the Bills. He's hopeful to be good to go this week. Brian Moan, their defensive tackle, high ankle sprain. He's week to week. He's not playing. Their defensive tackle is not playing. Safety, Ugo Amadi. Defensive end, Benson Mayowa. Cornerback, Shaquille Griffin. And guard, Mike Upati. We know how important Upati is. They all remain questionable to go this week. Bebsy, Seahawks go into LA. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the biggest problem here is it almost feels too obvious to bet the Rams in this spot. The Seahawks are coming off a performance in which they were exposed in more ways than one, which makes me weary. It makes me weary to take the Rams because it starts to feel a bit like a trap. However, Russell has struggled the last 2 weeks with turnovers, a lot of that having to do with the fact that you don't have to respect a run game when DJ Dallas is the only guy back there, when there's no Chris Carson, when there's no Carlos Hyde. They're very thin at running back, and they're going up against a talented Rams defense. They're not an incredible defense. They're obviously not the Rams defense they were a couple of years ago, but they still have Aaron Donald. And more importantly, they have one of the only corners in the NFL that I trust covering Metcalf one-on-one. Ramsey is a big physical corner. That's the kind of corner that you need to play against the Metcalf, who's a freak. Metcalf is still going to get his catches. He's still going to get his yards. But against Ramsey, who's sort of, I don't know, people have sort of forgotten about Jalen Ramsey, it seems. He is still a dynamic player. And I don't like Goff. I don't trust Jared Goff at all, but because it's good Goff or bad Goff. But Goff plays well against awful defenses, and he plays terrible against good defenses. Well, we all know Seattle's defense is atrocious. They are one of the bottom defenses in the NFL. And there's a bunch of weapons on that offense that I believe McVay has had 2 weeks to plan for this game. It really just looks like the Rams should take care of business in this game, given all the injuries to Seattle and given the problems that they are facing right now. You know they're going to blitz the absolute hell out of Goff this week, but if McVay is watching that game, then he's got to have out passes ready for that. He's got to have a bailout for Goff, and as long as this game comes down to whether or not Jared Goff throws it away, in my opinion. If Jared Goff can get the ball out before that blitz gets to him, then the Rams are going to roll.
You know, when Jimmy Stain on our 1 p.m. shows on YouTube, he was talking about how the public got hammered. It had been hammered last week, and this is around the time of year, and I agree. That was like this time around the time of year where the public is hammered. That's the only thing that gives me pause here, because how is this not perfect for the Rams after I read off all the injuries? Birdie asking where the money and tickets are so far for this game. I think it's very dangerous with the information I have, and I think you need to really pay for information. And early in the week, I don't trust the information I have. I have the money coming in heavy on the Seattle and heavy on the over. And I mean 85% plus. And that's crazy to me. Rams coming in off their bye week, coming off that 28-17 win at Miami in week 8. We talked about that last week. I mean, they were outgained by 326 yards, largest discrepancy for a winning team in 18 years. The Andrew Van Ginkel fumble return and a team record 88-yard punt return by Grant. Miami had 4 takeaways in the first half. I mean, it was just ridiculous. It was a ridiculous situation there. Rams ran 92 plays to the Dolphins 48. I mean, the whole game was just nuts. But Goff, constant pressure, 35-61, 355 yards, 1 score, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. This just brings me right back to Daniel Jones and Carson Wentz, because Goff's being destroyed in the press over that performance.
This is just it. This is exactly why I said it comes down to Goff. There's a lot of certainties in this game. Like Dennis is saying, everyone wants to take 43-year-old Brady to bounce back this week. I don't think Russell needs to bounce back. I mean, even with all the interceptions he's thrown, he's still thrown up a ton of points. And look, I personally think Russ is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. I like him more than Mahomes. I like him more than Rodgers. It's close between those 3 guys. I think they're all fantastic. It's not a Russ question mark for me. It's that offense has struggled without the running game because it's all on Russ right now, and it usually is in Seattle, but they've taken a step back because of that. Now, on the other side of the ball, it really just comes down to which Goff shows up. And Goff does play well against bad defenses.
See, my problem, what scares me is I think this is so easy to bet the Rams.
Me too. And that's what I said right off the top, is it seems too obvious to bet the Rams here.
Jalen Ramsey missed that game against the Dolphins. He got sick right before the game, and he's good to go this week. Darrell Henderson left in the third quarter with thigh injury. He didn't return. He's expected to be back in the lineup. Jordan Fuller is now back. Their safety, one of their safeties, obviously, designated to return off injured reserve, maybe in lineup this week. So Dennis Garcia says, what is so obvious about trusting Goff? Clearly, that's the only hesitation, I think.
Yeah, I think I've been pretty clear on that, Dennis. That's the only thing I don't trust is whether or not good Goff shows up or bad Goff shows up. But Goff has played well against terrible defenses, and as soon as he doesn't have to be good, he's fine. It's when he has to be good that he's bad.
I mean, Birdie says, "Where's the money going then? The money's telling you Seattle's the play unless you believe it's all, look, yeah. I just how? See, this is what scares the shit out of me this time of year. Like, I really I understand that Russell Wilson is spectacular and Goff is questionable, but how could the Rams not be 3-point favorites here?
And here, Bernie touched on this about their schedule, and I mentioned this before their bye. Is the Rams travel schedule for the first half of the season was almost unfair. By week 8, they had traveled 20,000 miles already. I don't know how the NFL did that to them, but that's a horrendous travel schedule. So you have to feel like they're rested and they're going to be better.
I just think this is it scares me when I say it's easy, but
Worker, you can't oversimplify it like that. Obviously, Wilson is. You said 3 times the quarterback Goff is. I think he's 10 times the quarterback Goff is. Unfortunately, there's more people on the field.
Slad says if it don't make sense, it don't make dollars, and he's right. He's right, but is everybody remembering that 28-17? No, they couldn't be. I mean, they out-yarded them. Okay, I'll leave this be right now. I don't see any way that the Rams get to 3-point favorites unless Russell Wilson comes down with COVID. And then there'll be way more than 3. But I'm telling you, I'm only going to stop and not move on it. I think is just because of fear at this time of year when something looks too easy. Because
well, that's just literally. That's the first thing out of my mouth was that my apprehension comes from it just feeling like this is too clean a play in favor of the Rams, despite what the chat is saying. It's just one team has a defense, the other doesn't. One team has a much better offense, but the Rams are more than capable of putting up points against this defense. So I mean. I don't have comfort in making a play here.
I'll be talking about it nonstop over the next couple of days. I want the Rams. I guess I won't make a move tonight.